Hello everyone! This video is a short literature review that tries to answer a question whether pseudocatalase cream is effective in treating vitiligo. So without further ado, let's start. Let's give a little bit of backstory. In 1988, this paper was published. Please pay attention to the author. Professor Karin is a molecular biologist, and we'll see her name more than once. Anyway, the research team claimed to detect a defective calcium uptake in keratinocyte cell cultures from vitiligulous skin. Based on the result of the study, a hypothesis has been proposed that there is an increase of superoxide anion radicals in the epidermis, that is the outer layer of the skin, of people affected by vitiligo, and which in turn leads to increased level of hydrogen peroxide. It was suspected that melanocytes, that is the cells that produce the skin pigment, are highly susceptible to hydrogen peroxide toxicity, and so the elevated level of hydrogen peroxide leads to loss of melanocytes and therefore to the loss of pigment. Professor Karin continues to develop her hypothesis and furnish it with evidence 10 and even 20 years after it was initially formulated. And honestly, I am not in position of questioning the details of the procedures or findings of these papers. I am not a molecular biologist. However, in 1995, about 8 years after Professor Karin's initial hypothesis, she published this study on 33 patients. And that caused a bit of a storm in the scientific community that studies vitiligo. So what is the treatment about? Remember that Professor Karin's team claims that vitiligo patches occur as a result of accumulation of hydrogen peroxide in the skin. Well, so pseudocatalase is meant to penetrate through the epidermis, that is the outer layer of the skin, and decompose hydrogen peroxide to oxygen and water. The skin is happy and repigmentation occur. By the way, pseudocatalase is not an enzyme, is a low molecular weight coordination complex which, very importantly, is claimed to be activated by UVB or solar radiation. In the study, patients apply cream with pseudocatalase twice daily, and please notice, that's crucial, Professor Karin's formula is of course patented. The results of treatment seems to be very promising. Complete repigmentation of the face and dorsum of the hands appeared in 90% of the group. In all patients, active depigmentation was arrested. Here we can see little more details, which are important. For instance, some types of vitiligo are more difficult to treat than others. For example, segmental vitiligo tends to be more difficult to treat. But I will leave these details for you to read if you are interested. The most important thing is that the study is not controlled. What it means is that all patients were undergoing UVB light therapy and they were using the pseudocatalase. The problem is that UVB therapy is a well-established modality of treatment and does give good results. So the problem is that we don't know how much of the repigmentation occurred due to the pseudocatalase. Ideally, the patients would have to be divided randomly into two groups. Both should be given UVB therapy and half should be using pseudocatalase and half placebo cream. So moving forward, in 2002 a paper was published, a response to Professor Karin's study on 33 patients, reporting that pseudocatalase is not effective for treating vitiligo. In fact, the cream seems to make it a little worse. This is the introduction of the paper that explains how the research came about. We read, double-blind, placebo-controlled, crossover trial of topical means that is a cream, pseudocatalase and UV phototherapy, including 50 patients from our unit, was unable to reproduce Professor Karin's result. Unpublished data. Suspicious that a preservative in the base might have inactivated the pseudocatalase prompted this further study with a new mousse preparation not containing the preservative, though still not the formulation with which the initial promising studies were reported. So this is Professor Karin's response to the previous publication. Basically, she says, you did not use the same formulation as me, and so the treatment did not work out. And by the way, I used your formulation, and I knew that it's not going to be effective. And then she goes on saying how subtle chemical complex pseudocatalase is, and that any of the formulas available on the internet will not work, unpublished data, except her formula PCKUS. And finally, she quotes yet another of her, at that time, recent papers where she shows the great result of her PCKUS Hocus Pocus cream, this time combined with Dead Sea chemotherapy, because why not? So anyway, the researchers from London replied, that they did highlighted the fact the exact same formulation was not used. They write, "We should, however, be delighted to undertake a study with Professor Karin's preparation should it be made suitably available to us. This has not been the case up until now. It is not fully clear to us why the preparations that we did use were different, but discussions before initiation of the studies were lengthy and did involve all interested parties, including Professor Karin. Therefore, it does seem unfortunate that the most appropriate preparation may not have been used. Nevertheless, it does still seem to us that full repigmentation does not readily occur even with Professor Karin's preparation, but we do agree that a trial with it should be undertaken. For whatever reasons, we need to wait another 6 years for such a trial. Meanwhile, Professor Karin keeps publishing. 2008 study on 71 children. More than 75% repigmentation was achieved in more than 90% of patients, but the study is uncontrolled and retrospective and therefore not very convincing. Finally, in 2009, a controlled study was done using the exact Professor Karin's formulation. The patent number is the same, the stability of pseudocatalase were checked. The exact formulation and stability revisions remain confidential, by the way. So anyway, the study found that pseudocatalase cream does not appear to add any incremental benefit to narrowband UVB alone. So basically, Professor Karin has been promoting for almost 15 years a cream that does not seem to work. I have been a bit sarcastic every now and again throughout the video, but please notice that I'm not rejecting Professor Karin's findings on molecular level, however. Maybe the pseudocatalase does not interact with the skin the way Professor Karin suspected it would, but it is definitely highly controversial that Professor Karin's results on patients could not be reproduced by other research groups, and also I just cannot find any justification for the poor design of Professor Karin's experiments. And then there is the fact that the cream formula was personally developed by Professor Karin and patented, and so one cannot but wonder if this is one of the very many examples where money interferes with science. So anyway, in late 2000s, the efficiency of yet another cream was investigated, cream Vitix. This cream does contain enzymes, superoxide dismutase, that catalyzes the conversion of superoxide radicals to hydrogen peroxide and oxygen, and catalase that degrades hydrogen peroxide to oxygen and water. So I found 2 papers that investigate cream Vitix, one from 2007, and we read, "Vitix is a therapeutic option that could be considered in the management of vitiligo, but the study was uncontrolled, so let's move on." The second study was from 2009. The study had a control group, and it found that the superiority of UVB plus cream Vitix over UVB treatment could not be demonstrated statistically. A very similar study was done in 2012 again. We only know that the cream was provided by Life Science Investment Ltd, but again, no benefits were detected. So what is the main conclusion? Well, the main conclusion seems to be that although the hypothesis that onset of vitiligo is caused by oxidative stress, there seems to be some valid arguments that support that, the oxidative stress hypothesis has not yielded in a big breakthrough in the treatment of vitiligo so far. The only valid treatment that came out of oxidative hypothesis that I came across is treatment with natural antioxidants. So this paper examines the effectiveness of ginkgo biloba, and this paper describes the use of some other plant extract in the treatment of vitiligo. In both cases, the repigmentation was higher than in the placebo-controlled groups. Also, both plants have not only antioxidative properties, but also immunomodulatory properties, meaning that they influence the immune system, and there is plenty of evidence that vitiligo results from faulty immune system. More precisely, that it's an autoimmune disease where body attacks its own healthy cells. The last publication uses, as they call it, antioxidant pool, which consists of vitamin E, C, and polyunsaturated fatty acids. The antioxidants were accompanied by phototherapy, and the paper claims that the increase in repigmentation was quite significant compared to the placebo group, which only received phototherapy. However, in an older publication, the effect of vitamin E alone plus phototherapy was measured, and we read, vitamin E may prevent oxidative stress resulting from phototherapy, in this case PUVA, but it does not affect the clinical improvement of vitiligo lesions. That's the reason why researchers justified the need to combine few antioxidants together in the previous study that I have just shown you. So, in summary, neither pseudocatalase, catalase, nor dismutase seems to be good money or time investment for the treatment of vitiligo. On the other hand, antioxidant mixture of vitamin C, E, and polyunsaturated fatty acids and some plant extracts that we have just mentioned could have some positive impact on treatment of vitiligo. Only please notice that some of these treatments were combined with phototherapy, which is a well-established modality of treatment. I hope it helps. Thank you for watching. Bye!